Israel has launched some limited ground operation inside Lebanon. Now, this has been contested by Hezbollah. Remember, the southern part of Lebanon is pretty much a state within a state where Hezbollah really calls the shots. And they say that Israel has not entered their territory. Having said that, there's now by all indications, it seems that this is a crisis that may not get resolved immediately and may escalate. Prime Minister Modi did reach out to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and reiterated India's commitment towards peace to resolve this at the very earliest. The question we are asking is that at a time when Israel is looking at limited, localized, targeted ground operations, what are the options that peace has at this stage? Secondly, what kind of a role New Delhi can play in ensuring some of these peace options actually can be tested, can be seen and executed? And lastly, will the camaraderie between Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Netanyahu have role to play in convincing Israel to probably de-escalate after escalating its attack? Okay, let's open this up. Let's quickly get the guests joining me on India Global this evening. First up, Col Rajeev Agarwal. Then we have Asif Rameez Daudi as well. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for speaking to me. Col Agarwal, let me start with you, sir. You understand this area very well. You know this territory very well. It is as complex as it can be. Add to it the tensions that it is seeing right now. What are the chances that a possible mediation, a peace settlement can actually be thrashed out at a time when Israel is looking to escalate?
Thank you, Gaurie. Thank you for having me. And, this war has escalated into something which is now, to my mind, going beyond control. In the last 15 days, starting from 17 September, when the pager attacks took place, the way Israel has taken advantage of the chaos and confusion in the Hezbollah ranks and inflicted damage after damage, it is unprecedented not only in this war or in modern era, it is unprecedented in any kind of war that I can recall, having read so many war histories. And then to take out the Hezbollah chief Nasrallah in a targeted airstrike, simultaneously orchestrating it when Netanyahu was giving his speech in the UN General Assembly, is absolutely, brilliant on the part of Israeli intelligence and bizarre as far as the war is concerned. So right now, I do not think that Israel is in a mood to, give away the huge advantage that it has accrued over the last 15 days, or maybe we could say slightly more. And it is hell-bent on, as I wrote yesterday also, on finishing of this threat once and for all.
Okay.
The Hamas is almost eliminated in Gaza. It has made major gains in West Bank right from 27th August.
Right.
And now with Hezbollah, command control communication structure totally eliminated, it is not going to give way so easily.
Right. Okay, let's ask this to Asif Daudi as well. I agree with some of the facts that Colonel Agarwal said, which is that Israel has been able to, some of its operational and tactical moves in the past have had very high success rates. It has caused a lot of damage to Hezbollah and Hamas ranks. It has also taken advantage of the fact that the US leadership right now is in disarray because President Biden is not contesting. He's pretty much now at the last leg of his presidency. Vice President Kamala Harris is in the midst of an election campaign. So there's a leadership vacuum there as well. But in the midst of that, Asif Daudi, what are the options that are on the table right now to ensure that some sort of a de-escalation can take place? Question one. Question two, I also ask that, if the world is running out of possible mediators, can New Delhi play some sort of a role because of the bonhomie and camaraderie that he enjoys with the Israeli Prime Minister?
Well, Gaurie, thank you very much for having me here with you. And you rightly started this debate by saying that, the West Asia crisis, and it's escalating every day. And these two questions from you, these are quite relevant ones. And we know that when the situation arises of this sort, it's very severe, and de-escalation is needed. We must prevent any kind of regional escalation, especially in this region. And especially in this situation when Israel is in a mood not to listen to anyone else, even to the United Nations and the international conventions, where we need to have the restoration of the international convention as well. So especially now after Gaza, now it's Lebanon, and slowly and gradually it's spreading everywhere else. In such situation, as you rightly said, like if there is a lack of proper mediators, especially when we have elections in the US and Joe Biden is in his last legs for this, So in this situation, I think India can definitely play a very important role, especially when Prime Minister Modi has a very good chemistry and, kind of relation.
So how much do you read into the phone call that was made between Prime Minister Modi and his Israeli counterpart, where India did put out its position very clearly that it stands with peace, but at the same time, it does, of course, want that terror infrastructure should be dismantled. So how do you read the phone call, the significance, and what could be the next steps from here on for India and Israel?
That's in fact a kind of usual cause. And it's not the first time Prime Minister Modi has interacted with his counterpart in Israel. Perhaps it was four times in the past from 7th of October until now. So we have not seen any major changes or proper impact of this, but especially at this moment, when we talk about India supports peace. Most of the sensible countries in the world, they always support the regional peace, international peace, security, restoration of all these rules and laws, and how we follow the warfare rules, etc. At the same time, terrorism, as you said, is a big challenge and big task. So when we have these kinds of situations, when Prime Minister Netanyahu is not ready to listen to anyone, and when the entire world, even United Nations, even the French president, He on Thursday he said that it's not wise if there is a kind of escalation in
No, I agree with the fact that there is global pressure on Israel to probably now de-escalate. I feel this is escalating so that you de-escalate on your own terms. That's one. Second, there's also a fact that Israel has 7 war fronts right now. There are 7 fronts on which it is fighting, and if it doesn't project power right now, then it impacts both Israel as well as, of course, Netanyahu's leadership. So there are 7 war fronts that it is taking up all these terror groups on. But from here on, Mr. Daudi, if one were to talk in terms of next steps for India to possibly engage in a meaningful way, this is also a region where India now has a fairly large exposure. It's a stakeholder, whether you take some large infrastructure projects like IMEC and some of the others, it has a reasonable stake. It's a big stakeholder there. So how can it use its heft and its leverage in this region?
Well, there are 2 parts in your question. Now, let's start with Israel, as you said. They have to show their power. It's one thing, but can this be done at the cost of the thousands and, let's say, tens of thousands of human lives, especially women and children? And doesn't it look like a personal kind of things when you say that, he has to look at the electoral part of it? The other part is like how India can play a role in this.
Yes.
As I said, India at this moment is one of the major players in the world.
Absolutely.
Especially in vision, and every other country, you go anywhere, they do not only give the highest civilian award to our Prime Minister,
right,
but at the same time, they are listening to our thoughts, and
that's the most important fact, that India's message for peace, for restraint, and for dialogue is now being given its due importance and it's being heard. I'm completely out of time, Mr. Daudi. I take your point about some of these aspects. Remains to be seen what happens next as far as Middle East is concerned. As I said, Israel is now looking to escalate it further so that it can de-escalate it later on its own terms. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of India Global. Thanks so much for watching.